A shaken Lebanon, shaken anew. A funeral stemming from yesterday's pager attack, suddenly the site of fresh chaos. A man lies on the ground, apparently injured by a blast. A new wave of seemingly bigger explosions at funerals, apartment buildings, at mobile phone shops. Again, communications devices the focus. This time, VHF walkie-talkies, an apparent sleeper weapon. Hezbollah still reeling from the extent to which its communications had been penetrated and weaponized, now discovering the breach was deeper still.
Nothing will shake us, not even if you blow us up, or our children. We are steadfast in our path and will not change or move.
Yesterday afternoon, hundreds of pages first beeped with a message purporting to be from Hezbollah leadership and then exploded, killing and injuring fighters, other Hezbollah members, medics, civilians. Some reports that Israel feared its capability was on the verge of being discovered. The choice, use it or lose it.
I don't buy it. I think these rumors, unconfirmed stories are just in order to deflect the criticism inside Israel that someone prematurely activated it. Namely, it's the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu who gave the order.
Lebanon's health minister said today of the more than 2,750 people injured in the attack, 150 were in the east of the country, 750 were in the south, with the overwhelming majority, some 1,850 people, in the capital Beirut. About 300 suffered critical injuries and 460 needed surgery, most on their eyes or faces. Operating theatres overwhelmed as eye surgeons in particular dealt with injuries on a scale they'd never experienced.
1/3 of these 110 lost vision in both eyes irreversibly. And the other 2/3, we have been working all night long. I think this will take us another one day to salvage one eye. So all the eye injuries are associated with amputated fingers.
The pages carried the branding of Taiwanese firm Gold Apollo. It issued a statement saying it had licensed a Hungarian-based company to make the devices in question, bearing its logo. Today, the Hungarian government denied the pages had ever been on its soil, that the firm in question had no manufacturing capacity, even as an opposition MP demanded an investigation into whether it was a front for Israeli intelligence. Israel's defense minister today saying a new phase of the war had begun, a shift in focus from Gaza to the north. This after the news that a division of elite paratroopers and commandos had been sent there in preparation for further escalation. Escalation, exactly what the US has been cautioning against for months. The Secretary of State was in Egypt today, working on a new Gaza ceasefire text. Israel's main ally saying it got no advance warning of the pager attack.
We remain very clear about the importance of all parties avoiding any steps that could further escalate the conflict that we're trying to resolve in Gaza, to see it spread to other fronts. It's clearly not in the interest of anyone involved to see that happen.
Before the latest round of blasts, a funeral today for the youngest victim of the pager attacks. Fatima Abdullah was 9 years old. While Israel has not claimed responsibility, the attacks have drawn international criticism. Ireland talking of wanton disregard for civilian life, Belgium of terrorism, the UN human rights chief demanding accountability for those responsible. Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah due to speak tomorrow about its next steps.
Well, I'm now joined from Tel Aviv by Ronan Bergman, journalist and author of Rise and Kill First, the secret history of Israel's targeted assassinations. Good evening. This wouldn't be the first time that Israel had used a communications device in an attack, but certainly on this scale, it seems unprecedented. Is it becoming any clearer how this might have been done?
Well, we're talking about something between 4,000 and 5,000 devices. It's very hard to tamper with each one separately and leave no trace. So as Israel did in other places, it's getting into the chain of supply or creating the chain of supply, yet to be seen. And also need to create a device or tamper with a device in a way that would not create any attention, that would not create suspicion in the airports if it contains explosives, and in a way that the whole change of production, marketing, selling, and delivery would not be suspected by a military intelligence apparatus of Hezbollah that is, very, very, could be concerned of such hacking or sabotaging or booby-trapping devices. The fact that Israel or whoever did that was able to supply so many for so long, and that at least for until recently no suspicion was arisen, and Israel was able to explode, means that this operation was very complicated, and at least from the Israeli point of view, reached its goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly humiliating, I'm sure, for Hezbollah. But where does this fit into a strategy? If the defense minister now says there's a new phase in the war, what would be the strategy in this kind of mass attack that will inevitably hit civilians?
Well, you need to ask the Minister of Defense if you think that he ordered the attack. Not here to speak for him. I could see potentially few goals. Israel was severely hit, surprised. Israeli deterrence was severely beaten on the surprise Hamas attack of October 7 last year. The second is that since October 8, Hezbollah unprovokedly has been attacking Israel, something that forced the evacuation of 100,000 civilians from the north of Israel. And I think shed some light into the need from the Israeli point of view to re-demand the implementation of the United Nations Security Council decision 1701, which basically said all Hezbollah forces should move north to the Litani River, something that Hezbollah violated brutally throughout time since then. So Israel, if Israel was behind that, and Israel, if I can maybe try to think of the decision-making process, Israel is trying to signal to Hezbollah that if this doesn't happen, Israel is ready for escalation. Now, is that wise? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
This could deteriorate into escalation.
I mean, in terms of the decision-making, I mean, I know for your book you spoke to sort of practically everybody in the Israeli intelligence setup. How would a decision like this be made? Would it be the Prime Minister's decision? Would it be Mossad? Who would be doing it?
Now, at the end of the day, it's either the Prime Minister or a smaller group, very small group of ministers. It's always the political level. It's never just the professionals from the defense establishment. They will recommend, it's bottom up, they will recommend usually on a certain assassination of operation. This will be brought to a discussion in something called Varash. This is the Committee for the Chiefs of the Intelligence, like the British JIC, and then brought to the cabinet or to the Prime Minister. They will make a call, no one else.
So it's absolutely knitted together. Ronan Bergman, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
Well, how do these unprecedented attacks fit in with the rules of war? Earlier today, I spoke to the leading human rights lawyer, Sir Geoffrey Nice, who led the prosecution of the former Serbian president, Slobodan Milosevic, at the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. And I began by asking him whether the attacks are legal.
They're almost certainly criminal on a number of grounds, with many of which your viewers will be familiar, having become more acquainted with war crimes law since 22 for Russia-Ukraine and last October for Israel-Gaza. These things which exploded in an uncertain place at the time they did, obviously likely to be amongst civilians, even if also in the presence of the people being aimed at. Attack on a civilian population, unlawful. Even if damaging the person aimed at, because in his possession, with or without anyone else, unless he's actually an active combatant, unlawful. Even if there's any other defense for what's going on, i.e. the argument of self-defense and all that sort of thing, let's assume that's lawful. Is it, and this will be a word your viewers familiar with, is it proportionate? Clearly not. You cannot calculate what the damage for, the collateral damage to civilians, children, whoever else it might be, is. It's quite likely to be far greater than the advantage, if any, of harming or killing the individuals whose pager it was hoped it would be, therefore criminal.
It is akin to terrorism, then?
Well, I'd rather just stick with the law itself. It is criminal acts within a conflict, as it has been since October, and since and certainly before, and it has been unlawful by non-proportionality and also by other specific crimes, attacking schools, attacking civilians, and now, of course, attacking people completely unknown. This is a criminal war on both sides, and the Western countries have got to say that, accept it, and starve both sides of any ability to continue with it.
If Lebanon wanted to try and bring Israel to account in some way, or any other country over this act, these bombings, what are the routes available?
There are no lawful routes by way of unlawful use of force. And Lebanon's best route now is to pray and aid such parts of the very limited international world order that there are, and to try and get the International Criminal Court not just to consider what has been happening on the territory of Gaza and Israel, which is jurisdiction they already have, but to consider further whether this is a case of jurisdiction that should be now considered and taken into account by the International Criminal Court in Lebanon itself. There is no justification for setting aside the limited benefits, if any, but better than nothing, that the international criminal legal order can bring. And that's what Lebanon should be pressing for now.
And is there anything that the Security Council could do to bring this within the jurisdiction of the ICC?
Yes, you can refer the matter to it. Yeah.
So it could do that on Friday, its meeting,
I would hope
we are
so,
told.
yes. Why not?
Right. And in the absence of that, there is no other way.
It is really distressing to the ordinary citizen like you and me that the fact that people do not want to die in conflict seems not to be recognized by the great powers who still enjoy game playing when it comes to armed conflicts. These conflicts, and all of them, should be stopped by an overwhelming desire to achieve peace in the area. And I'm afraid to say it can't really be said that that's been an overwhelming desire on the part of, for example, those who've been particularly supportive of one side or other of this horrible conflict.
Sir Geoffrey Nice, thank you very much indeed.
You're most welcome.
Well, the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah is inextricably linked with the war in Gaza. A ceasefire deal there could help to calm tensions to the north, or at least put the bloodshed on hold, but there appears little prospect of that. With Israel insisting on keeping its troops in southern Gaza and Hamas insisting they leave, bombs continue to rain down, with strikes overnight claiming at least 17 lives in Gaza City. Palestinian colleagues captured the aftermath, and their footage is distressing from the start of this report. The terror and chaos of the aftermath of an airstrike on a school, Ibn al-Haytham, which was also a shelter for displaced people. Where to flee, what to do. The latest Israeli airstrikes hit this morning in Gaza City. Another 8 deaths to add to more than 40,000 Palestinians killed in less than a year, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health. A neighbour runs a baby boy. His name is Zain, the only survivor from his family, into an already overcrowded hospital. He joins the treatment table with countless other children. So far, 9 people killed, including 3 children and 2 women, in Al Zaytun, a residential area of the city after an overnight strike. Baby Zain's older brother, Omar, is buried somewhere in the rubble. The rescuers continue to look for survivors under the rubble. There is no specialist equipment. Rescue and grim recovery is done by hand. The residents bewildered to the reason they were attacked in the middle of the night.
We were sleeping and suddenly we were attacked. More than one strike and many people were killed in the area. I don't know why they're attacking us in the neighborhoods. We're civilians and children.
All of them are women and children who were turned into pieces.
The question for these families is now, where do they go to be safe, if anywhere?